Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our 11:11 Wisdom series. This topic is resilience in crisis and disasters, and our session leader is Connie Meyers, and our session expert is Tracey Hawkins. So we're going to learn about how to build a resilient mindset during crisis and disaster management, and that's really important as we are in a global pandemic and dealing with a lot of things thrown at us on a daily basis. So at this point, and by the way, I'm Sarah Sudachan. Welcome. Please join us. We'll put some links in the chat, and this will be up on our wisdom series. We are having our wisdom series every Wednesday at 11. And at this point, I'm going to pass the Zoom floor over to our session leader, Connie Meyers. Thank you, Connie, for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. And it's such an honor to be on this wisdom series. You know, I've been a big supporter from day one of WomanUP, and it's just an honor to actually be on here and provide a little input into resilience in disasters and crises. I am a 5-time best-selling author. My last book just came out not too long ago called Leadership in Trying Times. And I have a book soon to come out that's called When the Unthinkable Happens, Be Prepared, Be Ready. My background actually led me to disasters in a unique way. I actually, for the first about 20 years of my life, I was in the insurance business and helped people in their sales careers and they're setting up their businesses. And then after that, I actually was a founder of a company that did home inspections. We were actually, at the time we sold the business, we were the largest home inspection network in the country. From there, I had to decide what it was I wanted to do. And I was in Northridge when the earthquake hit. And we got, the government reached out to us to ask us to please bring inspectors because there were so many, they needed so many inspectors because it was such a big earthquake. And so that's how I got involved. I was a FEMA inspector and trainer for 7 years. And during that time, I learned a lot about, and I always wanted to write a book about what consumers needed to know when it comes to disasters, much more than just being prepared. There's a lot more to it than that. And then I was one of the founders of Online Ed, which is the platform that California Association of Realtors uses for their educational courses and the free 45 hours they provide. So I've been very fortunate that you take all that background and you put it into one package. And I was destined to write this course. About a little over a year ago, the education director sent out an email saying, these are some topics we're looking at. And one of them was disasters. And I had just had a mental thought saying, I wonder what that disaster FEMA work and training I did, what does that have to do with anything I'm doing now? Now I'm coaching and I'm teaching leadership and crystalline moments and all these other things. And what does that have to do with anything? And about 2 weeks later is when I got that email. And it started out to be just a 1-hour course for the California Association. And now it's become a 4-course series. And why is that important? Well, that's kind of what we want to talk about today. I think it's very appropriate that it's Veterans Day, and I think it's very appropriate that it's 11/11 and the 11 a.m. It talks about being conscious and aware. So I want to make you aware and not scared by being prepared today. So I'm going to give you some scary statistics to start off with, because you need to understand the magnitude of what we're talking about when we're talking about disasters. And then you pile on different kind of crisis you have in your business or in your life, and you pile that on top of it. And there's a lot of stress out there. So by talking about resilience, we're going to talk about how to overcome not just disasters and in preparedness, but also a lot of this information you'll be able to use in your everyday life. The National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration had some very interesting statistics. They say that from 1980 to 2019, the average cost after inflation for disasters per year was $44 billion. From 2014 to 2019, 5 years, it went from $44 billion to $106 billion per year. Then, if you look at the last 3 years, 2017 to 2019, the cost was $152 billion. Now, let's take a look at 2020. With the pandemic and everything that's happened, it is going to be in the trillions. It is going to be absolutely enormous how big it's going to be. So we've had disasters that have happened that some of them have never happened before. And in natural disasters, I'm talking about, in addition to the pandemic, we've had disasters that they haven't happened since 1950. They've all happened in 2020. We had the derecho winds, which is a sideways wind that happened over the Midwest and caused immense damage throughout the Midwest. At one time, we had 2 hurricanes in the Gulf all at the same time. That hasn't happened since 1952. Then in California, you've had firenadoes. Those are fire that create tornado wind that look like a fire, but they're swirling like a tornado. In the Southeast, in the spring, we had hurricane force winds caused by just wind, not any storm, but they spawned all kinds of tornadoes all across the Southeast. And the Gulf of Maine has the dubious honor of having the highest rise in temperature of water of any place on the planet. And then we have the hurricane season. The hurricane season, right now, as of today, there have been 30 named storms. They've gone through all of our alphabet and all through the Greek alphabet, and they're coming out almost to the other end. And we still have until November 30th before the hurricane season is over. And they were talking this morning about there being another tropical storm out in the Atlantic that could very well develop into a hurricane. That means that so far in the United States, we've had 13 named storms hit the U.S., and so many of them were right in the Gulf area. The past record was 1916, where there were 9. So you take all of that into consideration, and then let's talk about earthquakes. California is very honored to be able to have earthquakes. Did you know that 97% of the people who live in California have a chance of experiencing a 6.7 earthquake or higher? So anywhere you live in California, you need to be prepared for disasters. We actually there's 3 reasons for this increase. The first one is exposure. So the global sea level is rising, and we also have outdated flood maps that are being updated as we speak with FEMA. But all of that has a lot to do. And some of you who are selling coastal properties in California are probably already getting the question, how does the water rising, the ocean rising, going to affect the value of my home? Then there's vulnerability. The one thing that we have seen is the intensity is on the rise. So the wind speeds, the amount of rainfall from a storm, the storm surge, flood depths. So floods are the most common disaster in all of the United States. They're in all 50 states. So no matter where you are, you're going to be affected probably at one point with some kind of flooding. The other is climate change in general. It's increasing the frequency as we're seeing this year. And I want to point out something, because we're all wanting 2020 to be over. We're all wanting the pandemic to be over. We're all wanting this all to happen. So do you honestly think on December 31st, 2020, the light on the pandemic is going to go off? We all know it's not. Do we honestly think that in 2021, things are going to be totally different when it comes to natural and man-made disasters? No, I hate to break it to you, but that's not going to happen. All we can do is be prepared and mitigate what we need to do to make things better. So what are some of the effects that happen in the real estate market? Well, first of all, you have insurance. The frequency of disasters is going to affect the values of home. Climate change is going to have a huge effect no matter where you are in the country. The frequency is going to affect real estate, like the fires that's happened all over the West, in particular in California. The frequency of that is going to affect the real estate market. Just about every single disaster, with the exception of mass shootings, and with the exception of maybe power outages and cyber attacks, have some type of real estate component. In some areas, the FAIR plan is the government, the taxpayer-based insurance program is becoming the norm rather than the exception. So now taxpayers are paying more of the claims than private insurance, although they are changing some of that as we speak. The ability to qualify for mortgages is affected. If you can't get insurance, then you can't qualify for mortgages. Or if you're in a flood zone, that creates a problem. That increases as we're seeing with what's happening soon. We're seeing more delinquencies. We're seeing more foreclosures. Inventory. It affects inventory. So finding a way to have a resilient mindset so that you can be prepared, so you can survive, and so you can recover from a disaster is becoming more and more important every single year. So, when you see like a flood or like maybe when a hurricane has come in and the news will interview somebody and they are distraught, as they should be. They're distraught over what's happened. And they say something like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then you have these other people that say, it's just a house. I can rebuild. I'm going to be okay. One is a victim mindset. The other is a resilient mindset. And victim mindsets can become resilient mindsets. So if we are prepared, that's one of the ways we're going to do that. In the emergency management circles, whether you're talking FEMA or your local emergency management, they're always talking about resilience. And they talk about it in infrastructure, they talk about it in community, they talk about it for businesses as well as individuals. And what they're talking about is building back better. So how do we build back better? And how can we mitigate to maybe prevent future damages? FEMA last year, they're saying for September, which was National Preparedness Month, was be prepared, not scared. And I stress that all the time because it really is about how you prepare. And what you can do is turn all of that stress and anxiety into positive change by using resilient mindfulness practices. And we'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about that in a second. So survival resilience provides a fast response and efficiency. So when you are in survival and you create that mindset of, I'm going to make it through this, your brain is already looking for ways of either maybe escaping, maybe evacuating, maybe whatever it is for you to get away. And it can be the difference between surviving or not surviving. They have in FEMA and the emergency management circles, they have an acronym called STOP. Excuse me. STOP is stop what you're doing, take a moment, and then T, take a breath, take 2 or 3 breaths, deep breaths to bring you into the present moment. And then observe, look around you and see what it is that needs, what the situation really is, evaluate it. And then proceed. Proceed with the plans that you've put together. You might have to make some changes to the plans, but proceed with decisiveness. So when you are thinking about, or if you are in the middle of a disaster, take 5 minutes to stop because it's going to make the difference between how you're going to proceed and what you're going to do. I have a dear friend who has a real estate company had a real estate company in Malibu. And her family, she grew up there, and her mom lived in her family home. Well, during the Malibu fires, the family home was burnt to the ground. And her agents all had homes that were damaged or destroyed. And she got that knock on the door that came and they said, you have 15 minutes to get out. Now, I want you to think about that. If you get a knock on the door in the middle of the night and you're told you have 15 minutes to get out, what are you going to take? She said she spun around in a circle for about half that time, not knowing what to take. And when they finally got to the shelter, and she had 2 little girls. They had brought nothing for the little girls. So that really emphasizes the importance of keeping a mindset, having a good resilient mindset, and being prepared. Recovery mindset is about how is resiliency is going to help you recover faster. So how quickly you recover also is very important, because maybe you won't recover. FEMA actually has a statistic that shows that after 2 years, if a business does not have a plan for disasters, that 95% of them will no longer be in business. Just look at what's happening with the pandemic. We all need to stay together and create this resiliency so that we can all recover. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing is, and this is kind of a pun, put your mask on first. And what I mean by that, when you are in an airplane, they tell you to put the thing on first, and then you take care of your family. Well, that's the truth with how you want to create resiliency in recovery. The first thing you do is you take care of your family. If you need to find a place to live, that's number one. Take care of your family. Then take a look at your business and what needs to be done. Put your crisis team together, and then you look around at your community and what can you do to help. So you want to review your plans for your communication. You want to make sure that you have plans in place for yourself as well as your business. In the notes that come along with this, I've given you an outline of some plans and things you need to look at. So if your crisis team, and your crisis team, if it's your family, could be oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I turned it off. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so creating a crisis team for your home and your place of business is critically important. So at your home, maybe if you're married, your spouse, and maybe it's your kids. If it isn't, then it's friends and family where you group together and create a plan where you work together for your business. And I want to talk in a second about, you might have a fabulous brokerage, but you may not be the right person to head up your crisis management team. So you need to take a look at who in your business is the best person to lead that team and who's going to be on that team. And then once you've created that team and you're going through recovery, how are you going to support that team? So it's important that you stay resilient so you can be an example for others to stay resilient. And one of the ways you can do that is by having a vision for the end of each day. So you're going through recovery. Maybe it was a fire and you're cleaning everything up. What is the vision for the end of the day? And create that. I'm so happy and grateful that this is what happened today. And have your team be a part of that so that you can celebrate those successes, because that changes the chemistry in the mind, and that changes how you're going to be able to move forward and how easily you're going to recover. So what do you want to have for your business? First of all, you want to have your emergency plan. You want to brainstorm strategies and things that you can do to mitigate any risk that might be in the way. You want to review your insurance coverage. You want to establish a crisis communication plan. Who's going to communicate with who? And you need to have a business continuity plan. You need to protect your company's data. You need to make sure you have identified all the critical tools that may be necessary from outside of your business. You need to have a place to go, your crisis management team to go, that is not your business in case it's destroyed. You have a responsibilities plan. Who's responsible for what? And then a plan on how you're going to pay your staff and contractors. And then most important, whether this is at home or at your work, you need to drill. All those things create resilience. So when you are prepared, you already know what you're going to need to go and grab. You already know the evacuation route. You've already driven the evacuation route. When you're surviving and you go into stop and you observe, you understand what you need to do to survive. So if we're talking fire, what do you need to have to be able to survive? And that creates resilience, and that will help you to survive. And when it comes to recovery, taking a look at everything that you need to have and do to be as prepared as possible so that when the recovery happens, it happens quickly and successfully. So drilling is critically important. So I want to talk a little bit more about resilience when it comes to leadership, when it comes to how we approach disasters. You know, FEMA has something they call preparedness procrastination. It's kind of like when we have a will. We don't want to really write a will because then we have to think about dying. Well, prepared procrastination is exactly that. So by creating a resilient mindset, you are able, as a leader of your family or yourself or your company, you are able to go into this mindset where you can move forward and create positive change versus coming up with something that is not, you don't know what to do or where to go. And I wanted to bring on Tracey because Tracey, she and I did a summit not too long ago, and I was so impressed what she needs to know because this applies to your personal life, it applies to your business. As a leader, if you do not have a resilient mindset, then you're not going to be a very good leader. So that applies to not just crisis and not just disasters, but it also applies to your personal safety and security. So Tracey, why don't you come on and tell us a little bit about yourself and talk a little bit about resilience in safety.
Okay, Coni, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, every time I hear Coni talk, I'm always taking notes and things, so I didn't want to be this. Coni is amazing, first and foremost. I met Coni because I am a true subject matter expert, and I truly respect other subject matter experts. That's how I found Coni. That Coni decided to go deep in disaster preparedness is something that I had not seen anywhere else. One of my specialties is real estate agent safety, but I also teach safety, how to live and how to work safely to everyday people and to other industries, home health workers, senior citizens, college students. And again, real estate safety is my expertise. And I am often appalled is kind of a strong word, but I'm often disappointed when I see people take safety so lightly, when they just bring a talking head and just someone to talk about safety to read PowerPoints. I like people who live and breathe what they talk about. And anyone who knows Coni knows that that's what she does. That's also what I do. And it's 24/7. So I have made it my business to know everything there is to know about safety and to know the stories, to know the statistics. And your numbers are amazing, Coni, because the statistics make it real. And I make it my goal to be a content creator so that I am sharing what I know in the best way possible. And I use real life stories and I use my knowledge and my expertise and the resources that I have.
Well, what is one tip you can give to people that relates to maybe mindset? What do you need to do to be safe? How do you prepare your mind?
Okay, first of all, I have to say you have to have a plan. You must have a plan. But let me go back one step even further than that. You have to use the safety tool that all of us are born with. You must respect the built-in survival mechanism that we already possess. And instinct, intuition, gut, sixth sense, fight or flight, whatever you want to call it. Every animal in nature has it. Human beings are the only animals who ignore it. And we ignore it for whatever reasons there are, but that's your number one built-in survival mechanism. And if you truly listen to that, whether it's a natural disaster or a man-made disaster or a crime in progress, that is one thing that we can do that could actually save us. And then next is of having a plan, knowing what you're going to do in any given situation. And I call it the playing the what if game. And so this works whether I'm talking to agents or just everyday people. What if? What would you do in any given situation? And Coni, that's what I heard you saying. You know, you have 15 minutes to evacuate. What are you going to do? So what I say is if you have a plan in place, then you know what you're going to do before you get in that moment. So play the what if game. What if I go into a property and then someone comes in and they have a weapon? What do I do? So if you thought about it in advance, and you know you need to identify your exits, front door, back door, what's the next step? Is there a weapon handy? Do I have a weapon? So you know what you're going to do in advance. What if game is, what if I'm home and someone breaks into my house in the middle of the night? What do I do? If your safety plan is to call the police, that means you need to have your phone handy where you can get to it in a hurry. If it's to escape, you need to make sure your escape route is clear. So having a plan is it is the most important thing that we can do when we talk about any kind of disaster.
Absolutely. One of the other things you mentioned when we were talking earlier is technology.
Mhm.
You said there's different types of technology that can help to keep us safe. And there's lots of technology, like, for example, FEMA has, you can text, I don't remember the number off my top of my head, but I can get it for you. There's a number you can text to find out where the shelters are in your area so that you don't have to go online and do it. So what kind of tools might be available for safety?
This is probably one of the more popular topics that people like me for. And another thing I do is I write for the National Association of Realtors, as well as the National Association of Residential Property Managers. Every single thing that I write, everything I talk about has to have some technology component, because that's the question when I'm speaking, no matter where I'm speaking, virtually or across the country, people want to know about technology. So how can technology help us? And during this pandemic, technology has been more important than ever to stay connected. And more people who didn't believe or trust in technology, they've had to depend on technology, whether to stay social or to stay in business. So technology is an important tool. There are technology tools at our fingertips that we already have that we don't know. Most people have a smartphone. I dare say, what, 98, 99%, Connie, you think have a smartphone, right? So your smartphone is a technology tool, and it's a safety tool. There is a way to utilize Google to find out your location. So I lost my phone for the first time this year. And the first thing I'm thinking is, where was I? I wanted to try to retrace my steps. I didn't have to, because Google does that for me. All I had to do was type in, where's my phone? And Google showed me a map of every single place that my phone had been, which of course is where I had been. So it's going to show me, and if I had left my phone somewhere, it would show me exactly where it was. Think about how that helps you in your business as a real estate agent when you're out on the go often. Think about how it could help you in a disaster. If you're affected by a disaster, your family members are wondering where you are. Imagine if your contact list can go to their phone, find your location in real time, see a dot on the map exactly where you're located. That's what you have at your fingertips. There are so many apps out there that duplicate that. It's like, you don't have to do that. If there's a safety app that says, push a button and send your location to your contact list, I say, no, that's not the safety app that you need, because it's redundant, because you already have that on your phone. But that alone is not enough, because that's just telling people after the fact, or while a crime or a disaster is in progress. It lets them know your location. I like proactive. I say, and again, this is a question I get all of the time, what's an app out there that's different and that's safe? So the ones that alert your contact list where you are, that's fine for in the moment. But when it's time to find you, when there's a something happening, it's just simply going to send someone to a crime scene or the scene of a disaster. Proactive safety. So an app must have a GPS component. It has to tell where you are. Secondly, and this is a must, there must be a live component. There needs to be a voice on the other end saying, how are you doing? Where, what do you need? Are you okay? That voice has to be there, so that you are communicating with someone, whether you're in a disaster situation or in an almost crime situation. You need to be able to say, here is someone, I'm talking to someone here. And if someone, let's say you're showing a property and you feel uncomfortable, you can push your app and the person's looking at you. You can say, this is my safety partner. So there's a live component, and crime is reduced when there's witness potential. So safety apps must have a live person. Utilize what you already have for free. And then there's also one out there, and I think most people are familiar with it. You type in a phone number, it will do a soft background criminal check as well as a financial check. So first of all, whether or not the person that you're going to be meeting is a criminal. So that's one of those proactive safety steps. And secondly, find out what their background is, the financial background. Can they afford what you're going to show them? And make sure you're safe. So technology is here to stay. And I say people just need to stick with it and be up to date with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everything you've talked about is so true, whether it's disasters or safety, or, you might be in trouble. When it comes to disasters, that's why planning, we've talked about plans, why it is so important to be able to know exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. For a business, you've got like 7 or 8 different types of plans. You've got a communication plan. You've got how the business is going to continue. You've got your personnel plan. You've got your clients plan. You've got how you're going to communicate with one another. And I think communication, what you're just talking about, those types of tools play an absolutely incredible role in how you communicate with one another. There's a list of people you may need to communicate with. You may need to communicate with your community leaders. You may need to create. What about the media? It's not just internally, it's also externally. Maybe you need to reach out to the DRE for whatever reason. You need to have a plan in place and the numbers in place to be able to do that. And by doing that, you know exactly what you're going to do. Now, when a disaster strikes, and I'm sure this is true if something happens to you personally, you may have to adjust those plans. You have to be flexible and say, look at them and look and see what I need to do. I do retreats twice a year in Mexico. And a couple of retreats ago, we were all out and there was a bunch of dolphins were right up next to the shore. So we all went running down to look at the dolphins. And this one woman jumped into the water. Well, there had just been a hurricane and the riptide was horrible. And it started taking her out to sea. Now, this particular one, most of the people that were there were over 55 or 60, some of us in our 70s. And this one younger woman stood up. She happened to be a competitive swimmer. She stood up and I watched her. She stood up. She stopped just for a second. She breathed. And then she observed where this other woman was. And she looked around and she knew she was the one. And when she proceeded, we all fell into place and knew our roles. And that's what a leader does when it comes to a disaster. Or if you're by yourself, you have to do this, having a safety partner is that's a great tool. So knowing mentally what you need to do and then moving forward is the key. And that's how you stay resilient in anything, in your personal life as well. Maybe maybe during the pandemic, here you are bouncing all these balls, taking care of your kids and trying to work, and your husband's there trying to work, all of that. And this STOP acronym works no matter what you're doing. So that's a good one to take advantage of. So the course that's on the CAR website is called Disaster Preparedness and Knowledge, DPK. And in that course, I talk a lot about the preparedness in general, but then I go into each disaster, whether it's man-made, like pandemics or mass shootings or cyber attacks, that sort of explosions, or natural disasters. And I get specific about what you need to do to be prepared, what you need to do to survive, and what you need to do to recover from a disaster or a crisis. So I'll put a link on the page for the course itself. I have a program I'm putting together called Prestige Partners for broker owners, where I want to give specific benefits to them as far as additional training and what they can offer to the agents in their offices, because I really, my vision for this disaster course is to improve the preparedness of 30 million people in the next 5 years. And it's going to take people like brokerages and real estate agents out there to make that happen, getting the word out. So anything else you want to add? We've got a few more minutes before the questions about safety and.
Right. Something you said earlier when you were telling the story about the swimming expert, how the swimming expert is the one who took the lead and stopped and thought about a plan in place, and everyone else fell in line. That brings me to talking about expertise. And a lot of times people think, oh, just anyone can do this. You're thinking I can swim, I can jump in and do whatever. No, let someone who lives and breathes it, let them lead the way. So that's what I like about CAR working with you, that anyone can put together some slides and say, here's our disaster plan. I like that they went to an expert. You are a true subject matter expert, and I dare anybody to find anyone in this space who can do what you do the way you do it. You lived and breathed it. We've got to live along with you doing that. So I respect subject matter expertise. And I think in a field like crisis management, disaster preparedness, and in safety, it truly matters who you work with. Someone who knows the ins and outs of whatever the disaster or the situation is, they're going to be the best to lead. And not only, and the other side of it, you didn't talk about this, but here's the other side of it. It reduces liability if you have someone who's truly qualified taking the helm, someone who's truly qualified saying, here's what you need to do in whichever situation it is. That way, if the association or board or the real estate company who brings you on board, if there is a problem and they have to go to court, they can say, look, I had the best in the business teach us. So in that situation, if something goes wrong, it's not because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So I love the thought of empowering brokers as well as associations and boards to get the best of the best on board and to share their training. And that way, when you have to start thinking in the moment, what do I do? You've already laid the foundation. You have all of the training you need. You know what you need to know. That makes it easier when you have to think, my what if, what do I do in this situation? You have the foundation. And I look at it that the same way too, when it comes to real estate agent safety. You can't just have anyone. It's such a serious topic. You can't just have anyone coming in talking about it. You need someone who has lived and breathed it, who knows exactly what they're doing. So kudos to you. Kudos to CAR for recognizing subject matter expertise.
I feel the same way about you. You have such valuable information to be able to be offered to everybody, not just real estate agents, but to everybody. And I encourage anybody, if you have a brokerage or if you're just an agent and you want to know more about being prepared, reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer any questions or to assist you if you have a team on how to put that all together. And I'm sure Tracey is the same way. She'll be more than happy to provide. And she's right. It's all about, first of all, what you're passionate about. I mean, if you're passionate, I mean, I didn't know how, I didn't even know when I was younger, I didn't know I was competitive. I found out how competitive I was. I was Rookie of the Year for Metropolitan Life Insurance when I was 28 years old. Mm-hmm. And now I can tell you that I am so passionate about getting the country, to get Americans prepared. Just look, we wouldn't have rushes on toilet paper if we were prepared. Right. So you're absolutely right. You need to reach out to somebody that's really passionate about what they're doing and passionate and have the knowledge and the expertise. I'm just grateful. I feel like I'm the most blessed woman on the planet right now because what I have learned, let me tell you, when I was writing the course, that's one of the courses on insurance, I joked about the man-made disasters. I said, if I can talk about pandemics and mass shootings and cyber attacks and power outages, and I was sitting on a sofa at my friend's house writing because we were in quarantine. We'd just gone into quarantine. If I can do that and not get depressed, I'll never get depressed. And then I started the course on insurance. And I have to tell you, you need to truly, as a real estate agent, you really need to understand and what's happening with the insurance industry, because I'm a half full kind of girl, and I had a hard time finding something to put in my glass that was half full. So I highly encourage that particular course in itself. Just the insurance section alone is worth it.
Fabulous.
I'm muted.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
It happens every once in a while. Wow, what an amazing conversation. So I would love, I love what Jennifer Berman is putting in the chat, and that is, I always bring out the subject matter experts. And how does our community get in touch with each of you? What's the best way?
Tracey, you want to go first and then I'll go next?
Okay, and it's in the notes, but and I used to be embarrassed to say it, but I had someone say, you own it, you say it. You can Google me. If you Google Tracey, the safety lady, you can find me. That's how I am on Twitter and Instagram. I show up as Tracey, the safety lady, or Safety and Security Source. That's my Facebook and my website. And I created a group on Facebook called the Safety and Security Source for Real Estate, where I talk all things real estate safety, nothing but safety, the stories and the tips.
So awesome. Good. So good.
Well, you can find me. My website is ckmsolutionsgroup.com, and there's all kinds of tools and tidbits and information on there. My email is Coni, spelled CONI, .MEYERS@ckmsolutions.group. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm on the WomanUP quite a bit. You can find me there. Just reach out to me. Any questions at all, I would love. If you have a team and you'd like to know more about how to help support your team and help them be prepared, reach out to me and I will give you a hand at it.
Awesome. And we'll also have this in the blog. And I love that you gave a shout out to the WomanUP group. If you're not a part of the WomanUP community, join us on Facebook. We have a wonderful mentoring program, which both of these ladies are a part of. And we're just, it's just such a great give back community. As you can hear from the passion of these two ladies, they are willing, able, and ready to share their knowledge. And so I do want to get to a question that was asked in the chat. Jennifer Berman asked, what app, and this is for you, Tracey,
Okay.
What app are you referring to? And I'm not sure what the context, but I think it had to do with background checks and showings. And she uses Instant Checkmate, wondering if there was another one.
Okay, I talked about two apps. So the one that does the background would be Forewarn. And I know they're extremely popular. And again, I got an opportunity to interview them. And I was talking about crimes against real estate agents where arrests had been made. So I was reading the perpetrator's name, and the Forewarn guy was pulling up the names. He said, I'm looking at this criminal record. He said, if the agents knew this before they went to show, they would have never, ever shown. So that solidified in my mind that Forewarn is the preemptive step before you meet someone. And then the other one was Agent Safe Walk. And that's specifically for real estate agents. And it has a live component and it has a video component. So if you're meeting someone, you can say, this is my partner. If you're alone, you can use technology to not be alone. And then you push the button. And again, there's a live person who pops up and says, hi, I'm here. So that lets the maybe would-be perpetrator know there's a real person here, a witness. And that's what criminals don't want. And then they know their location. You can use that app to do mass notifications. And I must say, I found them. Typically, apps find me to try to sell me something, but I found them. And what I found is they say, Tracey, what do agents need? What do they want? Because I'm a former agent. They listen to me. So I said, the app needs to have this. It doesn't need to have that. So I've gotten an opportunity to work with them in that manner. So it's truly different than any other app out there. It's not a distress signal for someone who may not have their phone with them. So those are two apps that I strongly recommend. Really
valuable in resources, forewarn.com and Agent Safe Walk, both in the comments, and we'll put that in the blog. I had a question for both of you, and this kind of is a personal, I'm going to take a chance at a personal question because I've had, put a plan together for disaster, and I live in California. I know all the things, wildfires, earthquakes, all of the things, right? But not everyone does it, and I will admit to not having a plan, and I know how important it is. So for someone like me, give me some advice on how to get that off my to-do list and done.
Well, first of all, I want to jump back to emergency kits. You said you had an emergency kit?
I do have an emergency kit. That's as far as I went. Kit? One for 4 people.
You need 4 emergency kits.
Okay.
You need one that has a full
going kit. On Amazon right now.
It has everything. You make a checklist of everything that might be applicable to your family, and you make that checklist so that in the future, because you end up borrowing from your emergency kit, you need to replenish, and things get outdated and that sort of thing. So you want to make a checklist, and that helps you to get started. That helps you to make the first step. But you also need a grab kit that is just bare essentials, things like medication, things that if you don't have time to grab the whole bag, you've got this little, or if you're being rescued for whatever reason, you can't take a whole big duffel bag of things with you. So a grab bag that you can take and just go. You need a kit for your car. And because if you're in your car and you don't make it home, what are you going to do? Yeah. Your kids need to have a kit, that they have a backpack or something like that, which, by the way, something I'm working on. I'm excited about that. But at least phone numbers and some basics in their kit. And then if you have anybody that has special needs, you need to take a look at that and say, okay, what kind of medications, what kind of tools, things do they need in order to have what they need in a disaster or a crisis. Again, it's not just disasters. So then their plans, the first and most important plan is the plan for your family. You've got kids. So what is the plan? If you're at work and they're at school, what's the plan? Yeah. And are you going to be able to get to them? If you're not going to be able to get to them, and I just talked to somebody that this happened to not very long ago. She was at work, her kids were at school, there was a flood and she couldn't get to them.
Mm.
So they have to be prepared. They have to know what they need to do. And so having a plan that the kids know and you practice with them is vitally important. And when I'm talking about these plans, I want to talk about one other really important point, and that is that when you're talking about plans, you need to make sure that you are practicing them. You're not just creating the plan. So doing the drills with them, and that helps you to modify the plan to make it better. So you have those plans. Then you have a communication plan. Who is going to communicate with who? And if you have children, it's a really good idea to let them be involved in the communication plan. So they feel like maybe they're the ones that call grandma and grandpa to see if they're okay.
Yeah.
You need to have a communication person that's outside of your area. So if lines are down, somebody can go ahead and communicate outside, and that's your go-to place. So, and then when it comes to your business, there's the communication is key, absolutely key on what to do. Making sure that everybody knows where the emergency kit is in the building. I talked to one group of people, and they were wanting to create this package for benefits for it was an association, not in the real estate, but something else. And they wanted to create a benefits package for their members. And I said, well, the best way to do that is to be a good example. So they just stopped. And I said, you do have a plan, right? And they had no plan. Well, they had a plan, but they thought it was in a box somewhere. And the person that had done it was like 11 years ago. And so having a plan and keeping it up to date and having people know where the plan and the kits are and how to access all the plans is critically important. And to really to just get started, I tell everybody on anything that I talk about, whether it's leadership or, vision or whatever, you start with where you are, what you have right now, and you take that first step.
Wow. Do you have like a resource that you go to, or have you created one, Coni, like a checklist for all of these things? And can we share that with our community?
As a matter of fact, I'll put a link I put a consumer package together. I'll put a link on the page and make sure that it's out there for everybody.
Wonderful. And we'll also post everything that we've learned today on Facebook, on our Facebook group, and we'll post that in the chat. And with that, I want to thank these wonderful, super smart, experienced experts on disaster and building resilience and safety. I just love that, Tracey. I love both of your comments, your words of wisdom. And I do want to encourage everybody to, if you're not a part of the WomanUP Facebook group, you can just Google, or on Facebook, you can just search for CAR WomanUP. And we hope to see you next week. We have Molly McKinley and Heather Elias talking about building an intentional brand. And I encourage you to join our mentor program. If you're out there wondering how to get involved, you go inside the Facebook group and there's a mentor button, and just join there. You can add for expertise, and you also see Coni and Tracey there as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add one point. Okay,
Please
because
do.
You and I talked about WomanUP when it was still a concept. And
sure
I have to say that the mentoring program, all the programs, if you are not a part of WomanUP right now, I have to tell you, you need to join, because it is such a powerful, inspirational group of not just women, but men too. And every time I go onto the WomanUP website, I am just amazed. Or anytime I'm in the group and watching anything that's going on, I cannot say enough about the WomanUP organization. So thank you for the concept, Sarah, and thank you for bringing in Deborah and Leslie and all the wonderful other people that are a part of it.
No, thank you so much, Coni. I really appreciate that.
I didn't know that, Sarah. I didn't know you were the brilliance behind it, because I think I found Coni through WomanUP and Deborah as well. And let me just say this for anyone out there: everything that I do, I share it in WomanUP, any of my safety articles, any upcoming programs. So you can actually go to WomanUP, search safety. You can find my safety tips there and my information there too. And I appreciate your moderators for always letting that information in. And so WomanUP is a good resource for safety tips and tools and the marketing materials that I share with agents to use to help keep consumers safe and to help add to their business. So thank you for creating a space like that for women.
Well, thank you, Tracey. And we love your value. You always provide something of value to our community. Both of you do. Coni, we love you. Tracey, thank you so much. And we'll see you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on 11/18 at 11 a.m.
Safe, everybody.